The crimson dress hung in my closet like a challenge. Bold, vivid, and perhaps a little too hopeful for a 62-year-old widow. I had bought it 2 weeks earlier, imagining how my son Nathan would smile when he saw me wearing it. "You look beautiful, Mom," I pictured him saying, the way he used to when he was a boy and I dressed up for his school plays or award nights, back when I still felt like I mattered. I slipped it on anyway. The silk felt cool against my skin, unfamiliar yet comforting. In the mirror, I saw a woman who had become skilled at disguising loneliness behind carefully applied lipstick and courteous smiles. Linda Barrett, still my name, even after divorcing Nathan's father nearly 15 years ago. Some identities outlive marriages. The text had arrived that morning. "Looking forward to lunch, Mom." The usual spot. 1:00 p.m. simple, warm enough to stir something inside me. At 35, Nathan had built a life far removed from mine. A sleek Chicago real estate career, a downtown penthouse, an Instagram filled with curated joy. But he was still my son. Still the boy I raised alone after his father moved on. I arrived at Brevet's Bistro 15 minutes early, clutching my purse like a shield. The hostess, a young woman with soft curls and a bright smile, led me to our regular table by the window. Around me, the restaurant buzzed with Mother's Day energy. Families laughing, children handing over handmade cards, bouquets decorating nearly every table. "Your son will be joining you," the hostess asked, adjusting the silverware. "Yes," I answered gently. "Any minute now." 1:00 came and went. The waitress, older, kinder, brought water and bread I couldn't bring myself to touch. "Would you like to order an appetizer?" she offered. "He's just running late," I replied, swallowing a knot that had nothing to do with hunger. "You know how traffic is." By 1:30, I could feel the glances, sympathy from nearby tables. I ordered the salmon, Nathan's favorite, telling myself he'd walk in just as the food arrived. Instead, my phone buzzed. An Instagram story. He was across town, smiling beside Deborah, his stepmother. The caption read, "Mother's Day lunch with my real mother. Grateful beyond words." The screen blurred as tears welled up, but none fell, not yet. Not here. I sat frozen, phone still in my hand, while the restaurant's noise swirled around me like wind. I couldn't feel. Real mother. The words rang louder than the chatter. Louder than clinking silverware. They echoed across 35 years of memories, scraped knees I kissed, late-night fevers I soothed, sleepless nights working 3 jobs to pay his college tuition. Suddenly it felt as though none of it had happened, as though I had been erased. "Ma'am, are you okay?" the waitress asked softly, concern replacing patience. I looked up at her kind eyes and tried to smile. "I'm fine," I lied again. I forced myself to eat a few bites of the salmon. It tasted like paper. Around me, families clinked glasses and laughed easily, passing gifts, snapping photos that would one day remind them they'd been loved. I stared at my plate, at the empty chair across from me, at the illusion I had been nurturing for years. Nathan still needs me. Nathan still cares. I checked my phone again. No new texts, no calls, no apologies. Just that photo, his perfect smile lighting up the frame. Somewhere deep down, I had known I wasn't first in his life anymore, but I never imagined he would choose to forget me entirely. Not today. Not like this. I paid the check, leaving a generous tip out of habit. Rosa, the waitress, gave me a look that said she understood more than I had spoken aloud. "Some people," she murmured while clearing the dishes, "don't deserve the love they're given." I nodded, not in agreement, not in defiance, just in acknowledgement. The walk to my car felt longer than usual, each step heavy with memory. I drove home in silence, not trusting the radio to hold me together. When I reached the house, I sat in the driveway for a long time. The red dress felt tight around my ribs. Inside, I found last year's Mother's Day card tucked in the kitchen drawer, a small piece of proof that I had mattered once. A store-bought card with a generic message, signed simply, "Nathan," no note, no memory, just obligation. My phone buzzed. "Sorry, Mom, got held up at work." Rain check, rain check. I stared at the words, numb. He still believed I didn't know. Still believed I was the woman who would swallow it down, make excuses, smile and nod. I started typing a reply, deleted it, tried again. Deleted it again. Finally, I typed the only truth that mattered. I saw your post. He read it within seconds. No reply came. As the sun sank beyond the kitchen window, a cold clarity settled inside me. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was done. This wasn't heartbreak. It was release. That night, I didn't sleep, not from grief, not from rage. Those emotions had come and gone in waves over the years. What kept me awake was something else. A strange, startling lightness in my chest. A space where something heavy had lived for far too long. The space where my devotion to Nathan had resided. At 3:00 a.m., I opened my laptop. My fingers moved before I consciously decided. Flights to Madrid. Spain had once been a dream, back in college, before I met Nathan's father, before life rerouted everything. I had studied Spanish literature. I used to imagine sipping café con leche on a balcony, wandering through art museums, writing poems no one would read. I never went. Marriage came, motherhood followed, then divorce. Now, for the first time in decades, no one needed me. No one was waiting. No one was calling. And that emptiness didn't feel like failure. It felt like permission. I clicked book now on a one-way ticket departing in 48 hours. The next morning, I made coffee and called my neighbor, Donna. She was in her 70s, widowed, wiser than anyone I knew. When my marriage had fallen apart, she'd sat with me on the porch and said, "You've got more life left than you think." "Donna," I told her. Standing in her warm kitchen scented with cinnamon and lemon polish, "I'm going away for a while." She didn't look startled. "Just curious, how long is a while?" "I don't know," she nodded. "Good. That boy of yours has taken too much from you already." I handed her my spare key and instructions to forward important mail to the bank. I left the house exactly as it was. The wedding china boxed in the basement, baby clothes stored in a cedar chest upstairs, Nathan's high school graduation photo still on the mantel. All relics of a woman I no longer was. 48 hours later, I stepped off the plane in Madrid, suitcase in hand, lungs filled with air that tasted unfamiliar and free. My Spanish was rusty, but good enough to reach a small studio apartment in Lavapiés, a neighborhood alive with color, sound, and second chances. The apartment was tiny, but it had a window overlooking a courtyard where an elderly woman hung laundry and sang opera each morning. There was a bed just large enough, a desk just wide enough, and silence deep enough for rediscovery. The landlord, Federico, a kind man in his 60s with wild eyebrows and a love for American jazz, studied my single suitcase and blank notebooks. "You are a writer?" he asked. "I'm figuring that out," I replied. For the first week, I did nothing. I walked the city until my feet ached, sat in cafes listening. Bought groceries from a tiny market run by a couple who argued affectionately over fruit prices. Practiced ordering coffee in Spanish. I turned off international data on my phone and let it rest. Missed calls piled up. First Nathan, then Richard, his father, then Deborah, dozens of voicemails, none of which I listened to. I imagined their conversations. "She's not answering. Where did she go? What is wrong with her?" Let them wonder. For the first time in my life, I wanted to be the mystery, and I was finally willing to be found by myself. The second week in Madrid passed like a breath I hadn't known I was holding. I still hadn't touched my phone. It remained powered off on the bedside table, a silent witness to the life I had left behind. Whenever I glanced at it, I felt no urgency, no longing. Only the faint hum of boundaries forming where chaos once lived. One afternoon, I discovered a quiet cafe tucked between two narrow alleys near El Retiro Park. It smelled of espresso and old books. The woman behind the counter had storm-cloud hair and an accent blending Ireland with Spain. Her name was Maura Sullivan, and she ran the place like she had invented comfort. "You American?" she asked, setting down a perfect cup of café con leche. "Temporarily," I replied. She laughed, a warm, musical sound like wind chimes. "We're all temporary, love. Some of us just admit it sooner." Mora became my first true friend in Madrid. She was 68, twice divorced, and proud of it. Her children lived in different countries but called every Sunday. She spoke with the steady confidence of someone who had walked through hell and chosen to decorate it. One day, I told her everything. About Nathan, the restaurant, the post. She didn't interrupt. She simply refilled my coffee and nodded in that quiet way women do when they've seen it all and survived anyway. My middle son did the same, she said gently. Chose his father's second wife over me after the divorce, didn't speak to me for 5 years. What did you do? I asked. I let him go, she said. Simple as that, hardest thing I ever did. But sometimes love is letting someone walk away so they can learn what they've lost. That night, I turned my phone back on. The voicemails flooded in, 47 in total. Nathan, Richard, Deborah, unknown numbers. The messages varied. Concern, confusion, guilt, control. I didn't listen to a single one. Instead, I sat at my desk and opened a fresh page in my journal. I wrote about a woman who had spent decades defining herself by who needed her, and who had finally learned that being needed isn't the same as being loved. And I slept that night without nightmares for the first time in years. It was a Thursday when she called. I was sitting outside the cafe with Moira, a plate of churros between us, when my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize, Spanish country code. I was about to ignore it the way I had every other time, but something in me paused. I answered, Linda. The voice was careful, brittle. It's Deborah Collins, Nathan's stepmother. I'm in Madrid. I need to see you. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. How did you get this number? We hired someone, a private investigator. Please don't hang up. I flew here because Nathan's not well. He needs you. The irony was almost laughable. After all the silence, all the eraser, now he needed me. I said nothing. I'm staying at the Western Palace Hotel, she added. Just an hour, please. I should have refused. Every part of me that had grown strong in Spain told me to protect what I'd rebuilt. But some small flicker, whether curiosity or the final ghost of maternal instinct, made me agree. Moira walked with me to the hotel. You don't owe them a single inch of yourself, she reminded me. I know, I said, and I meant it. Deborah looked older than I remembered. Her blonde hair showed dark roots. Her makeup was uneven, her silk dress wrinkled. She stood when I entered, hands trembling around a half-empty coffee cup. Thank you for coming, she said. You look well. I am well, I said, taking a seat across from her. You have 55 minutes. She flinched but nodded. Nathan's struggling. He lost the Peterson deal, the big development in Chicago. He's not sleeping, drinking too much. He's falling apart. I said nothing. I watched her. This woman who had taken my place so effortlessly. He feels guilty. She continued. He knows what he did. I told him that post on Mother's Day was cruel. I begged him not to do it. But you didn't stop him, I said. Her eyes filled. No, I didn't. I wanted to matter to him. I didn't think. No, you didn't. She looked away. He says he's ruined everything. He keeps saying he killed the only person who ever loved him unconditionally. He's right. Her mouth opened then closed. Deborah, do you know what I did for 35 years? I asked. I made excuses for Nathan's indifference. I turned myself inside out trying to earn love from someone who never had to earn mine. She swallowed hard. I know I have no right to ask this, but please just talk to him. He needs you. I leaned back in my chair. He needed me for years. He chose someone else. And now he needs me to make the guilt stop. But I'm done being his Band-Aid. I stood calm and certain. Tell Nathan I love him enough to let him feel the weight of what he's done. And when he's ready to carry it with integrity, not shame, I might listen. Until then, I am no longer his safety net. And I left Dabber sitting in that hotel lobby with her cold coffee and her regrets. 3 days later, he appeared. I was at Mora's cafe, grading vocabulary exercises from my advanced English students, when I saw him through the window. Nathan Barrett, thinner than I remembered, his once tailored suit now rumpled and loose around the shoulders. He stood across the street like someone unsure of his own presence, staring at me through the glass. I didn't flinch. I didn't wave. I simply continued marking a paper about the future tense. Morris stepped up behind me, saw where I was looking, and raised an eyebrow. That him? I nodded. He looks awful, she said flatly. Good, I replied. Nathan finally crossed the street. Each step like it carried 100 questions and no answers. When the cafe door opened, the small bell overhead rang louder than usual. Or maybe I was just listening harder. The other customers glanced up briefly, then returned to their books and conversations. To them, he was just another American. He stood at the table for a moment, his eyes scanning my face like he didn't recognize me. My longer hair, my sun-warm skin, the easy posture of a woman who didn't owe anyone an explanation. Mom, he said, unsure. Nathan, can I sit? I gestured toward the empty chair without looking up from the next paper. He sat slowly, carefully, like someone easing onto uncertain ice. I've been trying to reach you, he started. I know you haven't answered because I didn't want to talk to you. He blinked at the directness. That was new for him. I deserve that, he said. You deserve honesty. He looked down at his hands, rubbing them together the way he did when he was nervous as a boy. I felt nothing. I messed up, he began. That Mother's Day, I don't know what I was thinking. I was angry, confused. No, I cut in. You were clear. You were cruel. But you weren't confused. You made a choice. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't hurt me that day, Nathan. You revealed yourself. The hurt came from the 35 years I spent believing that if I gave you enough love, you'd give it back. But what you wanted was access, not connection. He swallowed, visibly shaken. I do love you. No, you love knowing I'll always pick up the pieces. You love the convenience of my love, not the responsibility that comes with it. Outside, someone passed by with a guitar slung across their back. Inside, the silence between us felt heavier than anything that had been said so far. My business is failing, Nathan admitted. I lost the house deal. The contractors pulled out. Christine and Dad are fighting. Everything's unraveling. And so you came here, he nodded, because I'm your emergency contact. He opened his mouth, then shut it. I'm not angry, Nathan, I said finally. I'm done, there's a difference. So what happens now? You just stay here forever. I live my life, you live yours. He stared at me, stunned by the simplicity. There are papers you need to sign, he said after a moment, reaching into his coat pocket for the property in Vermont. Legal stuff. And there it was, the real reason. Email them, I said. I don't have your email, then figure it out. I stood gathering my papers. This isn't revenge, it's protection. You are welcome in my life only when you've done the work to be someone who deserves to be there, not when you need a signature. I walked away. He didn't follow. 3 days after Nathan's visit, I woke to find 23 missed calls. I had slept soundly, deeply, even peacefully. The kind of sleep that comes only when you no longer feel obligated to hold someone else's world together. My phone had been charging on silent. When I checked it over my morning coffee, I found the record of desperation waiting. 6 calls from Nathan, 4 from Richard, 3 from Deborah, and 8 from a contact saved only as an attorney. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. That afternoon, Lucia came for her extra English lesson, carrying a small paper bag that smelled like cinnamon. Magdalena, she explained. My grandmother says. Sweets help with difficult conversations. She placed the bag on the table beside her grammar book. What makes you think I had a difficult conversation? You've been different since Tuesday, she said. Not unkindly. Stronger, but also, how do you say more solid? More solid, I like that. Yes, I said. Someone I used to know showed up. She tilted her head. The one who hurt you, I nodded. Did he apologize? He tried, but apologies without change are just noise. We practiced the subjunctive that day, the grammar of uncertainty. If I were younger, if I had known, if he had changed, all those fragile conditional possibilities. If my son were to truly change, I said aloud, then maybe I'd consider forgiveness. Lucia looked up. But you don't think he will? No, I don't. She nodded like she understood far more than her years would suggest. Then you are free. That evening, Maura insisted on taking me out. We sat at a rooftop tapas bar, looking out over the Plaza de Santa Ana, plates of patatas bravas and marinated olives between us. You look different, she said, echoing Lucia. Settled like a woman who stopped waiting. I smiled. I feel like I finally arrived in the one place I'd always avoided my own life. We clink-headed glasses of Rioja. Just then my phone buzzed on the table. A new call from an attorney. I turned it face down. They're persistent. Maura observed. They're desperate. Nathan's business is failing. The house has become a problem. He wants me to solve it for him. Will you? Eventually, I said, but not because he demands it, because I choose to. The next morning, a knock came at my apartment door. A young man in a tailored suit stood there holding a leather briefcase. Senora Barrett, my name is David Glickman. I represent your son, Nathan Barrett. I didn't open the door all the way. How did you get this address? We hired an investigator. I need to speak with you about urgent legal. No, I said flatly, beginning to shut the door. Ma'am, please. Your son's company is in serious financial distress. There are tax issues involving your property in Vermont. If you don't sign, I cut him off. Mr. Glickman, my son made a public choice to exclude me from his life. He has made no effort to repair that. I am under no obligation to clean up the messes caused by his own decisions. He stammered. But he's your son and I'm his mother. A real mother teaches her child that actions have consequences. I closed the door, locked it, and made myself coffee. Later that day, I called Moira. They sent a lawyer to my apartment. She whistled. Want me to call my cousin with the civil guard? Not yet, I laughed. What will you do? I'm going to live my life, I said. And if Nathan wants to be part of it, he knows what he needs to do. And that was the end of it. Or maybe finally the